Hey folks, Pewter City Jim here. Today, I want to introduce you to the first video in a series for the channel. I think all of us at one point or another have wanted to come up with our own take on Pokemon, right? Our own region, our own Pokédex filled with our own menagerie of Fakémon. I'm certainly no exception, and so I figured why not get started. A lot of other people on YouTube have done the same thing after all, and it looks like a whole lot of fun. My starting place might be a little bit different though. I think I'm like one of 3 people in the world that actually loved the concept of the Rotom Dex and was happy to see that concept move and change from generation 7 to 8. I wanted to explore another side to that idea, and I hope in the process I've come up with something that you'll like. Let's move to the lab and I'll show you some of my process. As with any design, it's important to take stock of what you want to accomplish and what your influences are. I always find it hard to move on a design without a good, solid foundation of not only inspiration, but research and refining of my initial concept to be sure what I wind up with is the best I can make it. So, Rotom. Rotom is a fun little electric ghost that can infiltrate your electronics to give them, shall we say, a little more personality. Be it your Pokédex, a bicycle, or a desk fan, smoosh a Rotom onto your device and it gets a couple big blue eyes and a boatload of character. Let's put one on a boat at some point. Gonna put a pin in that one. Anyway, my concept was for a Pokemon dispenser, kinda related to the PC storage system in Sword and Shield, but with an interesting twist. See, who doesn't love/hate/love the thrill of a good old-fashioned gacha game? An idea came to me one day when thinking about the game corner that some Pokemon games had where you could exchange tokens for Pokemon. Some good, some great, and some available nowhere else. When I first played Blue version, I had no patience for the game machine, so I did what any self-respecting trainer would do. I beat up the Elite Four as many times as it took to earn enough money to buy enough tokens to exchange for a Porygon. Ocean's 11 it was not, but I got what I wanted in the end, as well as some seriously strong Pokemon in the process. But what if, just for fun, you had no control over the Pokemon you were gonna get? What if these pocket monsters went all in on their gachapon influences, and I could just trade real Pokéyen for the opportunity to get the monster I wanted? Doesn't that sound deliciously frustrating, or potentially super rewarding? There's also a slightly more personal memory that brought all this to mind. And there was a time when my wife and I didn't live in the same city, or even in the same country. I like to buy her little gifts, but honestly, where I lived was a pretty boring place with not a lot of options for cool presents. One day, I noticed that there was a Pokemon Gachapon machine near a convenience store I'd passed on my way home from work. It became a ritual that every day after work, I'd toss in a couple of coins, grab a couple of capsules, and put them in a box, which, once it was full, I'd send to my wife as a gift. We still have all those little figures in a box somewhere. She had a lot of fun opening them up, and I was always excited to see which monster I was going to win for her on any given day. With these two things in mind, Rotopon was born. So, now that I have my concept, I had to find some real-world influences to draw on and make it stronger. I knew I wanted it to be a gachapon machine, but stapling Rotom eyes to a capsule dispenser was gonna seem a little bare bones. Besides, there's so many cool shapes and colors and different sizes of capsule machines out there, it would be hard to nail down just one concept. I looked through a couple of options, then identified the parts that make the machine distinct. From other machines. There's a slot to put payment into, but honestly, I wanted things to be more seamless than that. Maybe I'm spoiled by a world of paying for everything digitally or by tapping my phone on a machine, but the idea of a coin slot seemed anachronistic to me, so it didn't make it into the final design. There's the base of the machine, of course, the casing that holds it all together. There's a place where you can see the capsule sitting inside and a little poster showing you the wonderful things you could potentially win. There's also a handle you turn to dispense the capsules, of course, and the turning of it coupled with the release of the prize is what makes that distinctive noise. I started by loosely sketching a couple of the Rotom forms that I was drawing influence from, just to get my head in the game, and then I doodled concepts for how I might want this ghostly gacha to look. I had an initial idea that something combining a gacha with a bubblegum machine might be fun, but I eventually scrapped that idea. I didn't vibe with it, and it looked less friendly than something with a bit more bulk to it. Besides, one of my key influences was the PC from Sword and Shield, and I wanted them to look similar in a way. Like they'd have a lot to talk about at the Rotom family reunion. After another pass or two, I came up with something that was almost there. I liked the idea that they could be pretty mobile and might follow the player around the game corner, so I gave it little Rotom lightning legs. This idea didn't stick for the final design, but I still kinda like it. And then came the final sketch. A very, very rough ink job. Don't judge me, I suck at inking, I'm aware. And I was ready to scan it in and finish it up. But wait, there's more! Because it's not just the machine that's special, right? It's the little capsules themselves, too. The ones I used to get from my wife were pastel colors on top and milky looking plastic underneath, and I remember just enjoying that gentle color palette. It was soothing and pretty. I'm also a big fan of how prevalent LED technology is lately, and I wondered if I couldn't combine those concepts into the Pokeballs that Rotopon would dispense. The seam around the middle of the ball seemed like the perfect spot. Then comes coloring. To keep the palette as official looking as possible, I snagged a few Pokemon of the colors that I wanted to incorporate, stapled them to the side of the canvas, and borrowed those colors as I made my way through the stages of coloring. Base colors, shadows, and highlights. I duplicated the Pokeball line art and colored those too. I know there's usually a wider variety of colors on the capsules you get from many machines, but I wanted to keep it simple and stuck to 3. Finally, the finishing touches. A rotating sign above the Pokemon's spire-like head adornment, because this is a game corner creature after all, and it's kinda gotta be flashy in some way. And an illustration of how it works. Grab its hand, give it a firm downward shake, and it will dispense a Pokeball for you, while simultaneously deducting 1,000 Poke-Yen from your Poke Wallet. So don't get too comfy with this machine, or it's gonna put you in Poke debt. My wife, who is forever and always a source of the best ideas and critiques, suggested that I change the sign to classic Rotom aura colors, and I figured that was probably a good idea, as the cool stroke around the text would be a nice counterpoint to all that orange. Plus, I went a step further and changed the arrow marker on its hand to mimic classic Rotom aura colors too. And there you have it, the final design. Oh, and I even used the music program I used to make a fun little robot voice for it. Rotom. Being as I want to do a bunch more of these videos, I figured the critter would also be a very fun gimmick to use in the introduction of my Fakémon. In this case though, it's going to be dispensing one of its own kind.
Allow myself to introduce myself.
Rotopon, the ghostly gacha Pokemon. Rotopon are a custom Rotom form created specifically for game corners. This cheerful and upbeat technological marvel can be a source of joy or despair depending on which of its many encapsulated monsters you win. Try feeding it a berry or two to improve your luck. In any hypothetical game this Fakémon would be in, I like the idea of it joining your party as a catchable monster, instead of Rotom Dex and Rotom PC and their inability to be caught. It would be a gift Pokemon, much like Eevee or Lapras in Kanto, Castform and Hoenn, etc. These things wouldn't exactly be lurking around in a field or forest. You might find one in an abandoned game corner, mall, or hotel, and gain its trust by feeding it or powering it up with an electric-type Pokemon. Of course, being in an abandoned facility would mean it's empty of capsules, so you don't get to walk around with a Pokemon dispenser at your side for the rest of the game. So, with the character concept and look finalized, how would this guy work in-game? You'd encounter this species at least twice, maybe more if there are multiple game corner-style facilities. The operational models in those places would dispense Pokemon as we've already discussed, and would be pretty much locked to their area and uncatchable. Then there's the one that you obtain in the abandoned facility, and that one would be all yours. The form and the one that you get would be permanent, like Rotom Dex or Rotom Bike, etc., so no switching into base form or any of the other variants. In that regard, it's almost like a regional form. I think if you were to breed it, though, it would give you eggs that would hatch into regular Rotom, as duplicating the machine hardware itself makes little sense. That would allow you to fill out all of the forms in your decks. And this is what Rotom's egg looks like in my region. I'll be honest, I get kind of bored seeing the same egg pattern, mostly the same egg colors over and over again. So I think in my region what I would like to do is that every Pokemon has its own special egg sprite that kind of matches the colors of the Pokemon, that way you know what you're going to hatch. I guess it does take away a little bit of the surprise factor of hatching eggs, but generally speaking, you know what's going to come out of it, so I don't think it's that big of a deal, right? Right. Of course, this Pokemon has to have an ability, and I chose Ball Fetch. What this allows for is the Rotom to grab any ball that you've thrown out and failed to catch a Pokemon with. So if you have this Pokemon in your party, it's not holding an item, you try and catch another Pokemon and the ball fails, Rotom will go ahead and grab that ball back for you and you can use it again. Pretty cool, right? And this is what Rotopon looks like when it comes in shiny form. Here's a level up move list. The one you get would be a level 5, as I don't think anyone before you, as the player, would be likely to have used it for battling. Base stat totals look like this. Higher on defense and special attack because it's a bulky boxy boy with a chute designed to launch stuff out of itself. In terms of the Pokemon it would normally dispense, I think it would usually be things unavailable or hard to find normally. Maybe Alolan or Galarian forms of various Pokemon. Probably the game's pseudo-legendary as well. Maybe like the 10 and 7 kilometer eggs in Pokemon GO. Because that's a gacha mechanic right there. You know it is. Sure, it keeps me walking 50 plus kilometers a week, but that doesn't mean it's not a gacha system. I'm just paying to play it with, like, cardio instead of money. And also sometimes money, because you can buy incubators. So... anyway, and there you have it. The very first Pokemon in my region. Or Fakémon, I guess. Which I still don't have a name or 100% set location for. I have a lot of ideas, but I'm relatively particular when it comes to laying them out and nailing them down. There will be more info on that in the next Fakémon video, though. Promise! In the meantime, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to, drop a thumbs up on it, and if you want to see more, I'd be really grateful if you'd subscribe. Take care, look after yourself, and I'll see you next time. Bye!